Hello guys, and welcome back to Sil's Podcast, and welcome to Sil's Podcast, and welcome once again to the floor. This is going to be a bit more low-key as a video as well, because I have been dared by my own ranting in a Discord channel, don't worry about that, to do an unhaul of my shelves again, because as you can't even fully see it, because like you only see like a very small curated version of my shelves, but my shelves are looking rough because I don't have a lot of them and I have a lot of books, so you can see that we're getting some issues. So honestly, any book that I can get off my shelves is a good deed, really. And I've noticed that I have far too many white male fantasy authors on my shelves, and we're going to try and reduce a few of these today. I'm going to be starting, because I've already packed up some of them, well, a lot of them that I could resell online. I've packed a lot of them into boxes, so there's not going to be a lot of rhyme or reason to this. Firstly, we're going to start off with a very particular group of books and what I plan on doing with them. Then we're going to go over the ones that I wasn't able to sell. I'm probably just going to donate them to a charity shop or something. And then we're going to go over the 5 boxes that I fill. It'll be fine. Right, so the first group of books that I'm going to be starting with are books that I want to put into the This Book Will Explode category. I've seen a lot of other booktubers do this, where they essentially say that they have so and so many weeks, months, it's usually a year if I remember correctly, so 12 months. They have a specific amount of time left to read those books, and if they don't read them during that time, they have to unhaul them unread immediately. And I mean, if they do read them, they can still decide to unhaul them or not. And I have a few books here that I want to read or reread in one case, or well, one series case really, because I want to see if I want to keep them, and they've been on my shelves for so long, and I've had them for so long, and they are taking up quite a lot of space because some of them are really big, and so I'm going to put these into the These Books Will Explode in 12 Months category. By which I mean a bit more than 12 months, because I do intend on giving myself the time to do this in the entirety of 2024, and it is currently only November. What happened with the time? Jesus Christ. But anyway, I'm giving myself time for these, to read these during 2024, and after that I will have to get rid of them if I haven't read them already. So the first thing is, this is actually reread series, and this is a trilogy by Anthony Ryan, and that is the Raven's Shadow trilogy, starting with Bloodsong and then going to Tower Lord and Queen of Fire. The reason I want to reread them is because I don't remember anything about the trilogy. I do remember that I liked it at the time that I was reading it, but it's been quite a few years. I'm pretty sure I've read Queen of Fire more or less when it came out, and Queen of Fire came out in 2015. So at most I read this 2017-18, around that time. So it's been a while, and I don't remember if I like them enough to keep them on my shelves. And as you can see, they are quite big, so these are actually, this is my only, I think, reread. I want to reread the series and see if I still like it enough to keep it, and I give myself the entirety of 2024 to do that. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is a German fantasy book, and I've also had this for a while. It is also the start of a series. I don't know how long the series is, and that would be Drachenelfen, so Dragon Elves by Bernhard Hennen. He's a very well-known fantasy author, and he was one of the authors I really liked when I was younger, and then I reread some of his stuff. Wasn't the biggest fan of it. And then I read a new series that he started with another man, and I absolutely loathed one particular moment of it, and then was unable to continue the entire series. So at this point I have one book by his and James A. Sullivan on my shelves. That's it, and this is the other one, and I haven't yet read it. As you can see, it is massive. It is a bit over 1,000 pages, so that's one of the reasons I haven't picked it up yet, and also because I was afraid, because, you know, experiences and all that. So I'm giving myself the entirety of 2024 to read it, and if I don't read it until then, I am going to unhaul it. Simple as that. The next one is on the other side of it's definitely not chunky, and that is Mortal Engines Book 1 by Philip Reeve. I got this after I watched the movie, which I felt was fantastic, but a lot of people told me that the series is a lot better than the movie because the movie tried to talk about everything that happened in the series, apparently. I wouldn't know. And yeah, I bought it, I've had it ever since, and I haven't read it yet. So I'm going to give myself the entirety of 2024 to read this, and if not, I am unhauling it, and I can still read it very likely from my library, because I do believe they have them. So there we go. Next one is a Stephen King book. This is Desperation, which is one of the Stephen King books I haven't yet read. I do still have it on my shelves though. And I want to pick it up now. It is also quite chunky. It is around 720 pages, so that's normal Stephen King length. So yeah, I know nothing about it because I do like to go into my Stephen King books fairly blind, but this is also a 2024 read it or unhaul it, essentially. And the last but not least, we have another trilogy, and that would be, I never know how to pronounce them, but that would be the Ria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan. It's also 3 quite chunky books. I do believe that there's like 2 books in each of them or something like that. I've been meaning to pick them up for a while now, and I just haven't, and I'm quite tired of them taking up this much space on my shelves without me knowing anything about them. So yeah, if 2024 Scylla doesn't read them, 2025 Scylla is going to have to kick them to the curb. It's as easy as that. Now, as I said, I'm going to firstly go through, if they don't fall, I'm going to go through the pile of books that I wasn't able to sell online, so I'm going to donate them and or, quite honestly, throw them away because I don't know what to do with them. Firstly, and this is going to be a theme, there's going to be quite a few of these, we have The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan. I'm unholding every single Wheel of Time book I possess except for New Spring, which is a kind of like a shorter novel tie-in of the series that happened, I think 20 years roundabout before the main series starts. Now here's the thing, I really like the TV series Wheel of Time on Amazon, and in theory I do enjoy quite a lot of the books, but I just can't anymore, like especially I can't with all of the people pretending like Robert Jordan created this beautiful matriarchal system where all of his female characters are so important to the story and are treated so well and whatnot. I absolutely cannot with people claiming that he somehow made a almost utopian-like world happen. This is not necessarily what people claim, but a lot of people excuse the rampant misogyny that is present in this series by saying that, first of all, well, a lot of people at the time, especially men, wrote very badly about women, and like, yes, they did, but Robert Jordan is not better. He's just a different kind of bad. And I grew very tired of it, and honestly, quite frankly, I'm very likely not going to reread these books, and they are massive. This is the mass market paperback of book 3, which is not one of the longest ones in the series, and this alone is so big. You don't understand how large this series is if you don't see it on a shelf at some point. It's massive. I don't have the space to keep a 15-book series when I'm not interested in rereading it ever again, and at this point am actively only having bad memories about it, and like things I violently disagree with. I might make a video about this experience at some point, but for now it's gone. It's gone. We're going to, as I said, we're going to see a lot of these pop up in like the different boxes that I have here around me, so just bear with that. I'm just going to very quickly mention them. Next one, I think the other 3 are also ones that I sold for a bit. We have The Ring of Earth by Chris Bradford. This is the 4th book in the Young Samurai series. I really liked them when I was younger. They are kind of like older middle grade to younger YA, I would say. I believe, if I remember correctly, the protagonist Jack is like 15, or maybe he's even younger than that. anything between 13 and 15 is my guess at this point. They're set in the 17th century, and they're basically about this boy named Jack. He is from Great Britain, and when his father and the entire crew of the ship that he was on gets killed by ninja pirates, he gets stranded on the coast of Japan and gets taken in by a sword master to learn how to be a samurai. As I was younger, I really, really enjoyed these books. I thought they were greatly written, I really liked the characters, I really liked the interactions that we had. And I collected the first 4 in English because when I was younger I read them in German. And I just really don't know if I'm going to like pick this series up anytime soon, and I feel like if I do, there's a high chance I'm going to at least find the translated version in my library. I don't need to keep this. It was just 4 more books on my shelves taking up space that I was very likely never going to reach again for, so you know, we had a good time, Chris Bradford, but it's time that you went to someone else who hopefully appreciates you. Next up we have a Stephen King novel. This is Rose Madder. I did enjoy it when I read it, but it's big, it's Stephen King. Am I going to read it? Realistically, no. So there we go. Goodbye. Next one, I was actually surprised that I couldn't sell them, but you know, there we go. They're not entirely in order and I cannot be bothered to fix that right now, but we have Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. I fairly recently reread all of them. I'm just going to hold up, there we go, there's the first one, City of Bones. I fairly recently reread all of them and I did enjoy my time because, you know, big nostalgia and everything, but it's 6 books, some of them pretty chunky, especially the last one. Like look at that difference. And I just don't see myself ever fully reaching for them again. And if I do, I will find these in a library. Like, I will very likely even find the English edition in a German library because they're just really well known. The only Cassandra Clare books I do not want to part with are the Infernal Devices trilogy because it is legitimately my favourite series of the bunch. Everything else, you know what, it's time to let go. It's time for other people to find these editions and just enjoy them for what they are, hopefully. So that's another 6 books off my shelves. I need you guys to understand how important this is for me. It feels like I suddenly have so much more space. I don't. It's just an illusion, but you know. Whoops. Okay. Cassandra Clare does not want to behave. Please stop falling. It's because they're so glossy, so they just keep sliding off each other. Right, okay. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty details. These are the last 3 books I could have sold them for I think like 15 cents each, and honestly I don't want to do that. We have the original Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I might have mentioned this before on here. Well, no, actually I don't think I have. I have a slight beef with Brandon Sanderson at the moment. I used to own pretty much all of his books, specifically the ones in the Cosmere, like Mistborn. And I had one year where I read every single Cosmere book. Apparently severely overdosed in them, in a fictional sense of the word, and the second I started thinking deeper about his books, the more problematic they became, and the more it became very obvious that if he was addressing anything deeper, he was doing so in a thoroughly unsatisfying way for me, and I was just I'm not a fan of that. And the more the Cosmere goes on, the more exhausting it gets in my opinion, because what I thought was happening with the Cosmere was he wanted to have a lot of smaller series that everyone could pick up wherever they wanted to, and then read whichever books they wanted. But the more the Cosmere goes on, the more it just feels like the Marvel Universe in the worst way possible, which is if you don't read every single series, every single standalone, and every single short story, you're never going to understand what the Cosmere is actually about. Annoying. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I don't want to continue down that road. So we're unhauling every single Brandon Sanderson I still own. There's a few more in the boxes, but this trilogy is the first one to go. And this is the one I'm actually a bit sad about because it's still one of my favourite series of his. But you know what? It's time. Right, so as I said, I have 5 boxes here. I'm gonna go through them and see if there's anything like new in them. So over here I have The Shadow Rising, Lord of Chaos, and The Fires of Heaven. All of these are part of Wheel of Time, with Shadow Rising being book 4, Fires of Heaven being book 5 and Lord of Chaos being book 6. We also have Arcane and Unbounded. This is a collection of short stories and novellas that Brandon Sanderson did within the Cosmere. Most of these are pretty short. I think there's 2 or 3 that are a bit longer, like for example The Empress Soul. Where is it? Edge Dancer is a bit longer. Well, I mean, and Sixth of the Dust is kind of like 50 pages-ish. So this is just a bind-up of all of the Cosmere-related short stories and novellas. Well, almost all of them. I think Dawn Shroud is not in here. And we also have all 3, the ones that fit in here, because the 4th one is in another box, because it wouldn't fit in this one. We have the Soulnight Archive, again by Brandon Sanderson. With this one I also have a very particular bone to pick, which I'm not going to go over in this video, but also they're massive. Do you see that? That's just one. This is the mass market paperback. I need you to understand this. They are very small, you know, my hand for scale, and then they are essentially as thick as they are wide. What is this? Anyway, very glad to have these chonkers off my shelf, I won't lie. So that's box number 1. It's basically just Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan. So, you know, the unholy duology. That made no sense, but we're going to go with it. Alright, next box. Yes, I am recycling my Illumicrate boxes for this. Don't worry about it. Okay, so the next book has books 7, 10, 11, 12, and 13 of The Wheel of Time. And we also have, can I get this even out? I think I've jammed it in pretty good. We have, oops, don't fall please. We have Rate of Peace and Rebel's Creed by Daniel Green. I bought them mostly because I used to watch Daniel Green a lot and I used to enjoy his content, and I am still of the opinion that you should try and support indie publishers whichever way you can. And I was genuinely interested in these because he kept saying that, you know, he's read so many fantasy books, so now he knows what they're about, and now he thought that he might try his hand to combine all of the things he loved in other fantasy books into his own series. And while I did enjoy Breach of Peace for the novella that it was, which was very surprising to me because usually I'm very critical of short fiction, Rebel's Creed kind of like took a bit of a nosedive for me, and even though there's still some aspects of the series that I find very interesting, the writing style is just really not for me, which I probably should have known, considering that one of the big things that I say about Brandon Sanderson consistently is that I don't like his writing style. And I do believe that to a certain degree Daniel Green said that he was somewhat influenced by Brandon Sanderson, though I don't remember if that was writing style-wise or not. If not, then I've just talked out of my ass and I'm very sorry, but, you know, it's whatever. It's just not my thing. And I don't think I need to keep books that are not my thing anymore. Next box. I'm seeing my mistake. I should not have stacked them in here already. Right, okay, so starting off the next box, we have the remaining 3 Young Samurai books. Look at them, how shiny, wonderful. We have Insomnia by Stephen King. I read it, it wasn't really anything special, and I have a few Stephen King books that I will keep until the end of time, or until I just don't have the space for them anymore. This is just not one of them. And then we have, I think this is the only queer book I'm unhauling, so that's telling you a lot. We have Queen of Coin and Whispers by Helen Corcoran. I read it and I liked it, but it wasn't anything super special for me, and so I would really love for this book to get into the hands of someone who's really going to enjoy it. It's YA sapphic, and it's basically about this princess who is now meant to become the queen of her kingdom, and she gets to know a new spy master, essentially, who is also a woman and whom she falls in love with. And there's a lot of like political intrigue and everything going on. It's really quite nice. It's just not my age category and it's not really my thing anymore, and so, you know. The next one is, I think, the only non-fiction I'm unhauling, which is The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. I read this one and I really enjoyed it. It was very interesting. It's basically about the serial killer H.H. Holmes, who used the Chicago Fair of 1893 to kill a lot of people because, you know, why not, I suppose. And it's really interesting. It's also, there's a lot of, he took a lot of like diary entries and like interviews that were done with near victims or family members of the victims and added them into the text. So it's really a quite intriguing read in my opinion, but I just don't need to keep it on my shelves and I'm very likely never going to reread it. So there we go. We also have Rhythm of War in there, which is the 4th Stormlight Archive book. I'm not going to get it out because she's massive. We have The Soldier King by Violet Malan. This is the 2nd book in the series. I got it used somewhere, and I've yet to find the first one, and I've yet to express interest in finding the first one, so off she goes. And last but not least, we have Footfall by Niven and Purnell. I got this initially because I wanted to read it for hard science fiction, but I have consistently not taken any interest in reading it ever since. It is very big. I don't need to. If I want to read hard sci-fi, I'm going to go with someone who's maybe still alive. And we're gonna go from there. So for now, Niven can go in the box. Now we'll see if I can manage to close the box still. That's a big question. Oh god. Force. That's the answer to everything. Brute force. Don't question it. Right, we only have 2 boxes left, so rejoice. And I do believe that at least one of them should have the remaining Wheel of Time books, question mark? Well, that looks good. Okay, so in here we have book 8, 9, and 14, so that's Path of Daggers, Winter's Heart, and A Memory of Light of the Wheel of Time books. We also have Cooperate. The Black Friend on Being a Better White Person by Frederick Joseph. I read this, I don't even remember when. But I did read it, and while it is a nice resource in my opinion, especially of like various, there's an encyclopedia of racism at the back, for example, with stuff like affirmative action, All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, educational system, historically black colleges and universities, mass incarceration, etc., etc. So there's a lot of explanations of how certain topics and words might be very important to black history, to black freedom, and to just the history and story of racism in general and how you can combat that. And while I do think that this book is informative in that regard, it doesn't feel on the level that I am currently at. It very much feels like a resource for people beginning to understand the concept of racism and how bad it actually legitimately is. So I would love for this copy to go to someone who needs it at this point, because I currently don't need it anymore. If I am going to read something, I'm going to go way deeper than this book does, because this book very much is supposed to be somewhat of an introduction for people. That's really all it is. And then we have the other ones in the other box as well, I'm pretty sure. I am going to be unhauling the entirety of the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, which is 7 books, I believe. I've had these for a while. I've read the entire series. I've read some of the books multiple times, because what I do when new books come out is I usually reread the entire series up to this point, which usually then means that I read book 1 approximately 10 times and the last one approximately 1 time. And I've generally had a good time with them previously, but first of all, on a pure reading enjoyment journey, I've recently reread the ACOTAR books to get to A Court of Silver Flames, relatively recently that is, and I kept not enjoying them. I kept, my enjoyment levels were going towards subpolar, it felt like, and so I am somewhat worried that the same thing is going to happen if I ever reread Throne of Glass. Should I ever want to reread Throne of Glass, I literally only have to go to my library anyway. And more importantly, I kind of don't want to keep Sarah J. Maas books on my shelves anymore because, you know, she's a well-known Zionist. Her books are also not necessarily the best books out there anyway. I just don't need it. And quite frankly, her series, especially Throne of Glass, takes up a lot of space on your shelves. Even if you, like I did, keep them stacked like this, massive stack. So we're going to get rid of every single one of them. Because we can. Because no one can stop me getting rid of books, actually. And no one can stop me from buying new books either, but that's a completely different thing, and we're not going to talk about the fact that the place I made on my shelves is probably already taken up by every single book I bought in 2023. And that is excluding my manga, which is a whole different thing. We're also not going to talk about in this video. This is the last box, and yeah, okay, so this is, we have the rest of the Throne of Glass books. So we have Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Kingdom of Ash, and Tower of Dawn. And then we still have another Stephen King book. We have Hearts in Atlantis. This is, I think there's 2 stories in here actually. Yes, there is Low Men in Yellow Coats. Yes, Low Men in Yellow Coats. And then there is the actual story Hearts in Atlantis, which is what gave this book its title. Once more, it's just one of those King books. I've read it, I did enjoy it to a certain degree. It was just nothing super special, and so I don't have space for this bad boy, because even though he is 2 stories in one, this is 620 pages. No one's got time for that anymore. So she's going. And last but not least, we have Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This was the last standalone that I still have on my shelves by his. I mean, I do believe this was one of the first books he he wrote and published, and I do think that to a certain degree this also shows. Even though I did enjoy parts of Elantris, I think that it very much shows that this was his first book. He was not as experienced a writer when it came to narrative focus and when it came to how fast he wanted to explore things. I still think that the end of Elantris is incredibly rushed and feels like he should have spent at least like 100 more pages on that if he wanted to go in approximately the same pace as he did previously. Yeah, what can I say? I'm getting rid of Brandon Sanderson, and this is the last one. So there you have it. It was quite a lot of books. I'm actually really happy about this. Especially because this does mean that my shelves are now even more diverse than they were before that. I'm really happy about this because I needed the space very badly. As I said, I still do need space. Like, this did not fix the problem whatsoever. It's just putting a stopgap into it. But I do feel like I want to try and curate a collection that I really enjoy. I want to have books on my shelves that I like. I want to have books on my shelves that to a certain degree I could just give to a friend and be like, I really enjoyed this. I think you might enjoy it too. And this is going to be difficult if I keep a lot of books that I myself have no interest in anymore whatsoever. So we're getting rid of them. We're giving them to people that might want to have them and that might enjoy them more than I do, and we're going to be happy with that. So yes, that was the somewhat chaotic unhaul / these books are going to explode in 12 months challenge, I suppose, that I gave myself, that I wanted to have for myself, because I was just very needed, and I was growing increasingly angry about some of these authors and just wanted them off my shelves. And so I feel actually very happy that I pushed through and and emptied quite a good amount of my shelves into various boxes and stacks surrounding me right now. So let me know in the comments down below if I've unhauled any books that you particularly enjoy, and if there's some books that you're also very glad to see go. I'm always very intrigued by that. And read the first section of the video where I talked about the books that I want to read next year. Let me know if you've read any of these, and if so, how much you enjoyed them, and if you think I should prioritize them, or if you genuinely believe, especially if you know me a bit better, that I'm not going to enjoy my time with them, because I'm really curious about that too. So without further ado, I hope that, as always, you have a nice reading experience, and you keep having nice reading experience with books you want to keep on your shelves and not want to unhaul like I did. And I will see you soon.